Welcome to Oh Dark 30, where the stories don't stop when the sun goes down. I'm your host, Levi, bringing you unfiltered stories, laughs, and chaos from the people who have lived it. Military, first responders, and everyone who's seen the dark side of the job. We're talking late night calls, long deployments, and the kind of memories that you only share when the world's quiet. So grab your coffee or your whiskey, settle in, and let's kick this thing off, because it's Oh Dark 30, and nothing good happens after midnight. All right, welcome to another episode of Oh Dark 30. My name's Levi. Tonight, I'm sitting down with family. Tonight, I got my cousin, Bubba Kelly. Did 29, little over 29 years. 24 years, sorry. 24
Okay.
years with St. Joe, Missouri PD. Just retired. Welcome, Bubba.
Welcome, buddy. How you doing, cuz?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I'm here. Long week down.
Do we got a drink in front of us?
I don't, but I was going to get up and make one here in just a minute.
You should. I
I
already have
probably
mine.
will.
Yes.
I probably will. It's been a long week, but not a long week of just being busy. Not a long week like PD weeks.
Right. Because you
So-
retire and then you just go back to work, right?
Yeah, but to go back
that's
to
how it
work
works.
doing something you actually enjoy doing. I mean, you enjoy it again. I enjoyed the PD stuff in the beginning, and then it became a little monotonous towards the end. So
Right. So 24, a little over 24 years on a
Uh-huh.
PD, same place.
Yep.
Tell me what you did there. Like, I know you were a detective for a while. You were a patrol sergeant for a while. So
started in January of 01. Came out of the academy and did my FTO phase, and then went right to midnights. And I spent the first about 7.5 to 8 years. I was a midnight patrol officer. We bid our shifts at the time. We would bid our shifts for a whole year. You bid your shift and your days off for a whole year. So for about the first 3 to 5 years, I was a midnight officer with the awesome days off of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday for the first 3 to 5 years. I can't remember how many years it was that I did that. Probably 3.
that's a good days off. Low man days off.
Yep, low man on the totem pole, but yeah, you had the same shift of people. We didn't rotate or anything. You kept your shift for a year.
Wow.
So
Like we bid every 4 months.
Yeah,
I think that's what we bid.
Once a year. It came around every November, and that's how it was in the beginning. When I retired, we were on 12s, and basically they rotated you had every other weekend off. So one week I only worked Wednesday, Thursday. The next week I only was off Wednesday, Thursday.
I remember when we used to go to the lake, somebody would find out you were a cop, and they were like, "Oh my God, he's a cop." And he'd be like, "Yep, I'm a cop 4 days a week, and today ain't one of them."
Yep. That was whenever I was on when I was on patrol. It was always I'm a cop 5 days a week. Today isn't one of them.
Right.
And then when I was a detective, we were on 410s. I'd say 4 days a week, and today isn't one of them. So yeah, you had to deal with those people. But no, I spent first I think it was 7.5 years. Actually, yeah, seven years on midnight patrol, and then during that time I was an FTO for I think 3 of those years. Became an FTO. Really enjoyed that. I think I was about 4 years in when I became an FTO, and about that 4 or 5 year mark, a lot of guys are starting to kind of get burnt out, and that rejuvenated me big time. Being an FTO, I really enjoyed that.
Right. Now you weren't in the training staff, but I know you taught a lot at your training academy too.
Yeah, that I'll get to that part. So I did the patrol FTO, and then I went to detective division I was a detective for 8 years, general assignment detective. We had districts, we covered a district, but we also not all, most were also CSIs. So I was a crime scene investigator, went to school for that. And then I took a bunch of did a bunch of training in death investigations and went through extensive training on human skeletal remains recovery and identification. There was only 2 of us at that time that had that training, so any skeletal remains or scatter sites, dead body, things like that, we got called out and did. We did recoveries, buried bodies. I got a really cool story I can tell about one that was like, I think it was 24 or 28-year-old 28 or 24-year-old homicide case that got a tip on, and we ended up solving them and dug this girl up after it was 24 plus years.
Well, that's a like legit cold case.
Yeah. It's a good story. It's a good story. I can tell that for you.
Absolutely.
That was in detectives, and then I promoted out of detectives in 2014. Became a sergeant. Went back to midnights for about 3.5 years. As a patrol sergeant. Went to days. Finally, I bid to days and did that for about a month. Hated it. Hated every bit of being on days. Too much, I was the brass at that point, but there was still too much brass in the building. I didn't like it. So an opportunity came open that I could go to evenings, which is the shift I'd always wanted to work. And I went to evenings for about 2.5, 3 years, and then we went to the 12-hour shifts. And at that point, I was like, I got 20 years in, and there's no way I can go back to midnights at this point. I couldn't do 12s on midnights, so I did go to days at that point. And that's where I retired from.
Okay.
Day shift patrol sergeant.
Well, I know we've got lots of stories. We've got stories, just me and you together.
Yeah, you used to come do ride-alongs with me and screw up my whole night every time.
I was like, this place is epic. There is shit going on all the time.
You were a shit magnet. If you came and rode, I can remember I had buddies there like, oh, God, he's riding tonight? I'm like, yeah, he is. And while the nights were fun, you saw it a couple times, but usually I let you go home. I'd be like, dude, you might as well just leave. But you didn't see the 3, 4, 5 hours after shift that I was in there writing those. And at that time, we were writing them by hand. Yeah, we didn't have the computers, so we were handwriting reports. So, yeah, Levi get me in some bullshit.
Shit magnet.
Yeah,
shit magnet.
Yeah, that was good times right there.
Well, let's get into one of those then. So, how about a shift that started normal and just completely went sideways, or turned memorable, on the flip side of that, just one that you can laugh about now, but at the time was just holy shit chaos.
Oh, what's ironic about St. Joe is that was every night. That place just, we grew up in a small town, you and I, same town.
Yes.
Same very small town, about 30 miles, 25 miles west of St. Joe in Kansas. We didn't even know that this shit existed. I mean, I didn't even know that people acted the way they did. And,
the biggest thing that happened in our town is you get pulled over by the city cop.
Yeah. I mean,
for doing some dumb shit when you're cruising Maine. Yeah,
he'd tell you just go home for the night or whatever.
Right.
And your parents knew it before you got home.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but talking about a crazy shift, you came and rode with me one night on Christmas Eve, and I mean, it had been busy, different calls, and all of a sudden we get a call come out of a guy had woke up in his house and heard somebody upstairs, and he went up there and caught a guy come out of his son's bedroom. And the homeowner standing at the bottom of the steps looking up, and he sees the guy, and the guy looks at him. He's like, I've got a gun. And the homeowner's like, so do I. And the room that the suspect was in was the homeowner's son's room, and he knew there was lots of firearms in there. They were hunters and stuff. And
now, if I remember right, we were on the north side of the town when that call came out, and that call was on the south side of town.
Yes, it was on the south end. We ran code. I mean, I can remember us like busting ass down there, and they're putting out the call. The homeowner's got him at gunpoint. Believes the suspect has a gun, and then as we're getting closer, you start hearing dispatches like, "Okay, we're hearing shots being fired." They could actually hear them. The dispatchers could hear the shots going off, and we get there, I remember I was just flying, and you were like, just breathe, Bubba, breathe, Bubba. You're
Well,
like,
at
just
this
calm
point,
down, calm down.
I'd already come home from Afghanistan at this point.
Correct, correct.
Yeah,
So you'd
I'd
been
already, right.
you'd been in a lot of shit. You're like, all right, man, just breathe. Remember, breathe. Calm, calm. Tactics, be safe, be safe. We get there, and go up to the house. I think I made you stay in the car in the corner,
Yeah, I stayed in the car.
north of the house. I remember the corner. I could drive right there right now. But anyway, we get there, and what had happened is the homeowner started up the stairs towards the suspect, and the suspect came out of the son's bedroom, ran down the hall, ran into an office area, and this bedroom was on the second floor, and the suspect like did a nosedive out the window off the second floor, hit the ground, and must have barrel rolled somehow, got up and was running away, and the homeowner is firing shots at him out that window. I remember we're like, what the hell? We're checking the houses next door. We're checking for blood. Like, did he hit this kid? We don't know what's going on. Long story short, we have a sergeant that comes up and he's like, yeah, you need to arrest the homeowner for unlawful use of a weapon. And I'm like, what? So we ended up having to arrest the guy. And ironically, the homeowner was the cousin to one of our officers.
Oh, no.
And at that time, we had, I think it was the 20, I can't remember if it was a 20 or 24-hour hold. So they wouldn't get a bond. They had to set for all those hours. And like I said, this is Christmas Eve. I mean, this is like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's actually Christmas morning by that point. And this fellow officer came in and gave his cousin advice. He said, ask for an investigation bond. And I learned that night what an investigation bond is, because if the person requests that, then we were at that time required to call a judge and wake them up, tell them the situation, and let them know that the suspect had requested an investigation bond.
Well, that's a
And
nice little loophole.
yeah, I'd seen it. I saw it used like twice, 2 or 3 times back then, but it's not there now. It's kind of went away. But the judge ended up setting a bond, and this guy was a businessman and had money. He had enough money he was able to bond out that night. Ultimately, he never got charged with anything. But
Right.
I can remember thinking, what the hell are we arresting this guy for? He just had somebody break into his house. But as I learned later on in life, I mean, he if he'd have shot and killed this guy, he'd have been in a world of shit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we both know that. I mean, the guy was retreating from him. He wasn't a threat anymore. So I didn't understand that in my young part of my career there, but of course you learn it later. But
Right.
yeah, that was a Levi story. And there's
we could actually talk all night about that night.
Oh yeah,
because it was just one thing after another of holy shit.
Yeah, you're talking about earlier. You were talking to me about it, just fights and you remember shit that I did because it all runs together, kind of.
Well, yeah.
But that was one of my good Levi nights. Trying to think of nights where, I mean, there were nights you talking about where it just started out normal, but there was nights you'd come in evening shift on our department. Literally, back then, one started at 3 and one started at 4, and the guys that started at 3, well, either one of those shifts, basically from the minute they came in roll call, they were in roll call maybe 10, 15 minutes. They hit their cars, and boom, they were called the whole night. I mean, there were calls holding for them. Midnights didn't start that way. Normally, you came in and it was pretty calm for the first couple hours, and then, especially on a weekend, bars closed and shit, it'd get busy for 3 or 4 hours, and then it'd calm back down. But you had those nights that you just came in, and I mean, it just started off from the beginning, and it just went till 5, 6 in the morning, and you were like, "What the hell is going on?" And the whole full moon.
Oh yeah. Totally
bullshit. Yes, totally true.
Totally true.
100% true. There's no doubt. If you saw the full moon, you're like, "Fuck!" If you had a full moon on Friday the 13th, if you saw that coming ahead of time,
I got we got that shit in the fire service. Is like, we're not sleeping tonight.
Yeah, no, I got smart and started looking at lunar calendars
Lunar
and shit.
calendars.
I swear to God, and I would like request a day off like months in advance. Nobody knew what I was doing. I was like, I'm not doing that shit no more. That was after I'd been there several years. I'd get away from that shit. I didn't want any part of it. But
Well, what's one call over your years that taught you something about people that you didn't think you ever knew?
there's a case from when I was in detectives, and it's a case that it's done a lot to me. It caused a lot of trauma. I had to go through a lot of therapy. I've been still in therapy for it. I mean, it was one that I realized years later how much it affected me. But this girl, she was, I think, 17. She got pregnant, hid her pregnancy from everybody. Her mom and stepdad, her boyfriend. No one knew she was pregnant. It's a Sunday afternoon. I remember being at home. I think I was watching the Chiefs game, and I get a phone call that I needed to respond to a Children's Mercy in Kansas City reference a baby that had been born that had severe head trauma and was likely going to die. So myself and another detective, Frank Till, went down there. And what had happened is this young girl had this. She went into labor at home. She was at home watching the game with her mom and stepdad. She goes into labor. She goes in the bathroom, goes into labor, and once again, nobody knows that she's pregnant. And she had the baby in the bathtub, and she didn't know what to do. So she beat the baby's head on the side of the tub to kill it.
Oh my God.
Her mom hears this commotion, hears a baby crying, is at the door like banging on it, like what is going on? The girl finally opens the door and hands her mom the baby. Now, this baby had no outer injuries to it. He had zero injuries. You couldn't see that he had. I mean, there was no markings on him. So, mom and stepdad are under the impression she just had a baby. They need to get this baby to the hospital because it's not responding, and they think it's due to her having the baby at home.
Right.
Get her the ambulance, take her to the hospital here. Everything, I mean, everybody just thinks this young girl had a baby at home. That's why the baby's acting the way it is. Well, they finally realize, this baby probably needs to go to Children's Mercy. They get down there and do the scans, and it's got brain bleed, non-responsive. It just, bad deal.
Wow.
He's going to die. And I'm sure we'll have other talks so we can get into that case a lot deeper on some of those things. But
Sure.
what I learned was, initially you go in and you try not to have emotions in these things, but here's this baby that is just, most babies are ugly, let's be honest, when they're born. And this baby was the most beautiful baby I'd ever seen. And I've had children of my own, and this baby was just beautiful, perfect. And I'm looking at it knowing it's going to die. And I know it's going to die due to what its mom did to it. And I was pissed at her. I was pissed. And when I went to sit in a room with her, Frank and I went into a room with her to interview her. By the time we were done with that interview, I felt sorry for this girl. I felt so sorry for her that she felt she couldn't share it with anybody. And what's crazy is when she goes to the hospital here in St. Joe, her mom calls the boyfriend and is like, you need to get to the hospital right now. She's having your child. Or she just had a baby. She had your baby. And this kid's like, I didn't even know she's pregnant. I mean, these kids are both still in high school. So he comes to the hospital with his parents. And this poor girl who thought she had no support from anybody, his mom comes in and she's like, look, I just retired. You kids will be fine. We're going to be here for you. We support you. We're going to help you through this. You both can finish school. I mean, they were making a game plan to take care of this baby. They had no idea that anything was wrong with it.
Wow.
No clue what she had done. Frank and I had to go into the waiting room at Children's Mercy. They were all under the impression still down there, even when we got there, that they were only at Children's Mercy due to the fact the baby was born at home and they were just making sure that it was going to be okay. They had no clue anything was wrong with this baby. They had no clue that it had a brain bleed, that its skull was all jacked, that they knew none of this.
Wow.
And they kept looking at us like, why are you guys here? Is this common for the police to come or detectives to come when a baby's born at home? And we're just like, we're realizing real quick that they have no idea why we're there.
That's crazy.
And we have to tell them, the baby's got some injuries. And they're like, oh, she must have dropped it when she had him and this and that. And we just are like, we don't disclose what's going on. We're just like, well, the baby has some injuries.
Right.
So she gives a full confession of what happened. And I left there feeling sorry for her, which was a total change in the feelings I had initially towards her. And came home, went to bed that night, and my phone rang. I told him to call me if he passed. And about 1:47 a.m., ironically, yes, I still remember the time. My phone rings, and they're like, "Yeah, he just passed." So I had to go the next morning to the back to Kansas City, Jackson County Medical Examiners, and view the autopsy and take a bunch of pictures and stuff. And I remember when they opened his skull cap, and I've seen tons of autopsies. Never seen this before. When they sliced the scalp to open the skull cap, or to open the scalp to get to the skull, it just was like you popped open a baggie full of bloody gunk. It just spilled out and just poured on the floor. It was just mush. And I remember the tech jumping back and looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, I'm assuming that's not normal because I've never seen that. She's like, I've never seen it either. So it was, that was,
wow.
That case is jacked with me pretty bad. But talking about how you learn something about people, you learn some people just, this was a good girl, a good family, everything. And you just realize that sometimes people just, they can't comprehend the support that they have, and they do unimaginable things that just is so out of their character because they don't know anything else, don't know what else to do.
Right. They don't want to ask for that help that they need.
Yeah. She talked so much about how she was so afraid of disappointing her stepdad, to the point that Frank and I both had the same thought, because we both walked out of the room, we looked at each other, and I'm like, man, the way she's talking about this relationship with her stepdad, and she's nervous about disappointing him and things. I said, are you getting a weird vibe there? He's like, yeah. We got the vibe that we were afraid that stepdad had molested her.
Okay.
And maybe it was his child. So much so that we did requested DNA swabs, and everybody cooperated fully. And I had to take those DNA swabs to Jefferson City to a lab and get them checked to make sure that he wasn't the father.
Wow.
Of this baby.
And plot twist.
Yeah, but just, and come to find out, they were just very, very close. I think she was distance from her real dad, and he was a very good stepfather, very, very close to her. They were very close, and she was just terrified of disappointing him. That was her biggest thing. She was more fearful of disappointing him than, her own wherewithal, or her own self-being and the baby's being. So it was just a sad deal. Sad deal.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's lighten it up a little bit with one of those calls, and this was probably early in your career, I would guess, that like you showed up, you did your job, got back in your rig, and you're like, yeah, this is what I signed up for. This is cool. This is good.
I'm trying to think. There was one that's really, it was a domestic call, and I can remember that this lady, because like I said, we grew up in a small town, and I can remember just, I'm not going to say domestics didn't happen over there. We just didn't know about them. They weren't public. Nobody knew.
We were blind to them.
Yeah, we were totally blind to them. And I can remember this one lady. Her husband would just beat the shit out of her all the time, and we would do calls with her all the time, and we'd always get there, and he'd be gone. We could never get him. We'd have to just submit the case and hope that a warrant was issued, and maybe he'd get picked up later. You just never got to see the end of it through, and we'd always leave there. You'd offer her all the resources. She had young kids, she had twins, and she'd never leave the house. He'd always show back up, and of course, she wouldn't be able to call us because he wouldn't let us. And this one night, we went there on the call, and we were able to find him in the backyard hiding. and we were able to get him in custody, right after he had committed a domestic assault against her, and that was the first time it had happened. And seeing her face, the fear in her eyes of like, oh God, he's right, he knows I called and he's right there. But the gratitude you could see and the peace she was getting, knowing that for that night he wasn't coming back home, he wasn't coming back in the house, she was going to have a night to herself. That was really satisfying. You're like, okay, we got this guy. We're giving her peace. If nothing more for a night, she's going to be peaceful and has peace.
Here's a chance to leave the situation.
Yeah, and she did end up several years later getting out.
Good.
Got out of that situation, and I've seen her a few times just around town, not in a work capacity, and she's always told me, thank you. You're one of the reasons that I'm out of that. And I'm like, well, you did the hard part. We just did our job, but it's still gratifying to see that.
Nice. That's good.
The other one was death investigations, catching murderers, and being able to sit down with the family, and let them know, hey, we got the person. This is the case we're submitting. This is what happened, and be able to give them some closure.
Right.
That was super gratifying. Super gratifying. But
people don't realize how much that means to people.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, it sounds weird, like, this dude's going to tell me how my family member died. But at the end of the day, they feel better about that. Knowing that there's closure to it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I can remember so many cases. I learned real quick in my career, very young, into it, that you'd always heard the saying, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And I never really knew how true that was until doing the job for a while. And I can remember going into suicide scenes or, different scenes where there was a death and family members showing up and just like screaming at you, I want to see him. I want to see my,
sure.
And I would be like, and I can remember it took me years to get to this point, but I finally got to a point where I just flat would just stand there and say, no, you're not going to go see him. And I would be calm and I'd be polite. And I was like, listen, I promise you that you do not want to see them this way. I didn't sugarcoat it. I just told them, I said, you do not want to see them this way, because once you do, you will never be able to unsee that. And that's the only vision you will ever have of that person in your head for the rest of your life. Because I have hundreds of visions of people in my head that if I ever hear their name, the vision I have of them, I don't see them, smiling and happy in a Facebook photo. I see them in that horrific last moments of their life. It'll never go away.
Right.
And I got to where I wouldn't let family members go. And I can't even count the number. I've had multiple come to me, see me, because St. Joe's not, it's a bigger town, but it's still small enough that you still run into the same people.
Right.
I've had thank you cards sent to me to the department, and I've had these people tell me straight up, just meet me and be like, thank you. I apologize for my actions that day. I know I was distraught. And I'm like, listen, you were going through a horrific incident or horrific moment, and your emotions were way out of whack, and I get that, but I didn't allow you to go see them for a specific reason, and I'm glad that you allowed me to explain that to you and keep you from seeing that. They would tell me thank you, because they're like, I don't ever want to see that.
Yeah,
So,
I remember times doing CPR on somebody and the family members running through the front door, trying to climb over the cops, trying to climb over us.
Yeah.
We're like, you need to let us do our job.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's not going to end well regardless, but like, y'all need to leave. So at 24, a little over 24 years on the job, you've probably done, what, 1, 2, 3 traffic stops maybe?
I did, maybe 4. No,
four traffic stops.
I did several, yeah.
Do you remember your craziest traffic stop that you had?
There was a dude one. I mean, God, I had so many, but there's a couple that really stand out in my mind. One's funny, and one still to this day, like, almost makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Right.
But so one, I stopped this.
You don't have any hair on the back of your neck, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, it's on my back, so the hair on my back.
On your back. There you go. Yes. Let's be real, people. Let's be real.
Yeah. stopped this guy in Midtown one night, and you could tell crack was real big in St. Joe back when I started the PD. And this guy was, I mean, he was strung big time. So I pull him over and I walk up to the car and I'm talking to him. And every time I would say something, I'd be like, "Hey man, can you give me your driver's license and insurance?" He'd say, "Who, me?" Every time, no matter what I said to him, he'd say, "Who, me?" So finally, I'm like, this guy's strong. I'm gonna have some fun. So I finally said, where are you going tonight? He goes, "Who, me?" And I was like, "No, I'm talking to your passenger over there." And this guy fucking whips his head over, looks over in the passenger seat, jumps towards the driver door, like looking back, like he's just shocked that somebody would be in his car with him. And he's like, "Dude, there's nobody else here." I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, then I'm talking to you." And so he says, I say something else. He goes, "Who, me?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm talking to the guy in the back seat." And he fucking whip around. He's like, "Motherfucker, why do you keep talking about other people in here?" I said, "Because every time I ask you a question, you say, 'Who, me?' Like, who else am I talking to?" He's like, "Oh man, you do have a point, but who, me?" And I'm like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I mean, just people strung out, stupid. Um, the one that makes my hair stick up on the back of the neck, I'll remember. I worked the south end of town, so you rode with me several times. You'll understand this, but we had 9 districts in St. Joe, and District 9 was a south end district, and District 9 is kind of it's out there on the end of the city. There's only one other district attached to it, and then everything else is spread out. When you're in District 9, you're kind of on your own. And I stopped a car on the
Okay.
highway going out of town to the south, so almost about as far south as I can be in the city within my jurisdiction. And I know that everybody's busy in Midtown. Everything is tied up. I know that from the radio traffic. I know everybody's tied up, and I'm just doing a routine traffic stop. And I walked up to this guy, and something about him, just the way he looked, the way he talked. I mean, he was very calm, very deliberate in his answers. And I mean, I've had people lie to me. I've arrested tons of people. I never was afraid of anyone. I just always relied on my tactics, and just knew to be safe, be smart, be watching what you're doing. Something about this stop, just everything in me is like, dude, just walk away. This ticket is not worth your life. I mean, I'm having these voices in my head. And I asked the guy, like, "You got your driver's license?" He's like, "I left it at home." And I'm like, oh, this guy's lying to me about who he is. And I remember asking for his name. He gave me his name. He gave me his date of birth. He gave me all his shit. I go check it all, and it all comes back as normal. And the guy has a license. I still don't have a picture ID confirming that this is the guy that he says he is. But he gave everything so smooth and so good that I'm like, okay, it probably is him. And just something about the stop told me, you know what? Just give this guy a verbal warning and walk away. And I never had that feeling ever again. I still to
Right.
this day have no idea what that feeling was that night, but it's just one of those that I don't know if the guy was on the edge, like he was right there where one little thing was going to push him just over the edge and he was going to do something stupid. Either he was going to try to take my life, I was going to have to take his. I don't know. But that one just sticks out, and I don't know why, and I never will have that question answered. It's just you get a sixth sense. I mean,
Was it
you
Friday the
understand. You
13th of
got
the
it.
full moon?
No, it wasn't. It
Right.
wasn't actually. But but no, you get that sixth. You understand it. So yeah, it was. It may have been
Well,
Freddy
yeah,
Krueger,
yeah.
the real one.
You get those feelings. You get those feelings. You're like, what is that?
Yeah,
And yeah, you
something
can't
isn't
explain it.
right.
There's
But
no way to explain it.
yeah,
Right.
I just knew in my. I remember thinking. I think because my kids were. Braden was born a year after I started, and Kylie was born the year later, so they were 3 and 4 years old probably at that time. And I just remember thinking, "Go home to your kids. Just go home to your kids. This isn't
Right.
more important than your kids." I mean, just so much shit would run through my head. Once again, I've never had that. I never had it again. That's the only time I'd ever had it. But just something about that call that night. So my advice to anybody is, if you have that, man,
It's
listen
crazy.
to your inner self, because something wasn't
Yeah.
right.
Verbal warning. Walk away.
Yeah, I still don't know what it was, but I know that it wasn't more important than me going home to my baby. So
Now, I know that you've had several partners over the years. And
Yep.
but my partner's not like you guys ride in the same car together.
Right.
You guys run a lot of the same calls together. What's the best
Yeah.
partner story you've got? And I know a couple
What?
of the partners. I've met a couple
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. You knew Bean, and we just had fun. We did a lot of stuff together. But there was a guy named we had an officer on our department named Josh Howery, and Josh Howery was a character. And one night they decided they were gonna Adam, Josh, and I up. Adam was up, and he's putting us in a two-man car, which we usually roll one-man cars. We had extra that night, and they're like, "Listen, you can ride together." That one night, in an 8-hour shift, we arrested 13 people and cleared up 21 warrants. Every person
Jesus.
we came in contact with that night, and every call we went on, we would run them, and they would have a warrant. Sometimes we'd run two people, they'd both have warrants. I mean, we literally were in and out of the jail, like I said, 13 different people.
Did you buy a lottery
And
ticket that night too? You should have.
no, because we didn't find it. We were to the point. At one point, I looked at him. I was like, "Don't run my name, dude," because I'm confident I don't have a warrant. But if I was ever going to have one, tonight would be the night. We went on a loud music
Tonight's the
call.
night.
Yeah, yeah. We went on a loud music call at this college party house. And when we get there, I recognize one of the guys that lives there. He was from Hiawatha, 14 miles from where we grew up. And I used to
Okay.
worked at a restaurant with him in high school.
Yep.
We were waiters together. I knew the kid, good kid, never in trouble. So I literally was like, dude, we have to run somebody. We gotta get something on record here. You're a homeowner. I'm gonna run your name, and we're gonna get out of here. Just turn the music down. Everybody's super cooperative. He's like, yeah, no problem, man, no problem. Like I said, he knew me. He recognized me. I run this kid's name, and I shit you not, he comes back with $110 warrant, and I'm looking at him like, how do you have it was a warrant for dog or cat at large. Like his dog had gotten out and didn't have it licensed, and animal control gave him a ticket, and he never paid it. And I'm looking at this kid like, I ran you.
Well, I mean, if animal control gives me a ticket, I'm probably not gonna pay it either.
Correct. So I was like, God, because I mean, at that time you had no choice. They had to go to jail, and they had to post bond to get out. So I looked at all his buddies standing around this room. I'm like, here's the deal. His bond is $110. You motherfuckers are giving him $110 before we walk out of this house. Because you guys' party is what got it. And I'm telling you what, they all ponied up. By the time when we left, he had $110 in his pocket, drove him to jail. We did our shit, booked him in, did the bond paperwork, and we took him right back to his house. I was like, because I was like, we're gonna pick the one guy who I know doesn't have a warrant, and sure shit, he ended up having a warrant. So it was just one of those nights, and that was the Howery factor.
That's
if
just
Josh
unfortunate.
Howery was there, yeah, if Josh Howery was with you, shit was gonna go stupid. That's just the way it was. That was just Josh.
Well, that leads right into now you worked all 3 shifts. So which shift had the biggest characters on it?
Oh, Midnights, by far. I mean, you have to
like characters like they were weird, or
are you talking officers? Or
yeah.
the weird. No, they just so if everybody usually when they start out gets shoved to Midnights at least for a little bit. Midnights isn't for everybody. It takes a unique person to work Midnights for years and years and years. And we had guys on our midnight shift. I mean, we had the same shift for 6, 7 years of all the same officers. You'd get a sprinkle in here, a new guy here or there, but they would try to get off. You had a
Right.
group of 8 to 10 of us that worked midnight shift together for, I'm talking 6, 7 years. And
Wow,
it takes special people to want to work. And I know guys that work midnights for close to 20 years. I mean, like they did it almost their whole careers. I did a total out of 24. I did 12 on midnights. So those guys, any group of people that can come in and function on 3 or 4 hours of sleep day in and day out, function well, is kind of impressive to me.
Yeah, but it also makes them a little off at the same time.
Absolutely. because that's not normal. That you should not be able to do that. I read a book one time years ago, and I can't. The author was anonymous. It was an anonymous author, and the book is called 10-8, 10-8, and it was a book. It wasn't even it wasn't like a book you start at the beginning and it goes through a progression to the end. Like most books. This was just little blurbs or little short situations that this officer wrote about in his career. I mean, one page may be like every shift knows the little old lady who will have warm cookies and hot apple pie for them, after a call if they need it. I mean, just little things that are true. And in that book, it talked about when you're sick, your body tries to heal itself at night while you're sleeping. That's just the way our bodies are designed, because we're designed to be awake during the day and sleep at night. What's that called?
Right.
Your circadian or something like that.
Your
Can't remember.
circadian rhythm.
Yeah. So it talked about when you work midnights, when you get a bad cold or something, you're awake and get to experience your body trying to heal itself. And I was just telling my daughter about this today on the phone because she's got a bad cold right now. I said, when I was on midnights, I can remember you may start your shift and your nose is so plugged you can't breathe. You couldn't even plug one nostril and breathe, get any air through it. And about 2 or 3 hours into your shift, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, your whole nose may just clear up and you'll get a feeling of euphoria, like you've just hammered a whole bunch of caffeine or a huge adrenaline dump, and you feel better than you've ever felt in your life. And you're like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And I mean, you've got energy and all this shit. Remember, you're sicker and shit. You've been sick for days. And then about an hour and a half later, that goes away, and you're back to feeling 10 times worse than you felt the whole time. But you would feel that and experience your body going through it. And he wrote about that in the book, and I was like, there's so much truth to that.
That's crazy.
And unless you work midnights for years and through a sickness, you wouldn't have any clue.
I've never thought about that before.
Have you ever been sick and you're on midnight and you're like, holy shit, why do I feel so good right now? And
No,
then about an hour or two later,
I don't
like,
think
oh,
I've
God.
ever experienced anything like that. But
Oh man,
right, like I've woken up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I feel kind of good, and then you wake up in the morning again and be like, oh God,
yeah, there you go. And
I'm on death's bed.
It's just, it talks about your body trying to heal itself at night, which makes sense. And whenever you're when you're awake through it all, you get to experience all that shit. So
how do you think in the last 24 years, how do you think the job's changed you as a person?
that is that question hits deep because I took an early retirement. I actually took a medical retirement due to mental health. I got down towards the end of my career and I was struggling bad, and I knew I was struggling but didn't pay attention to it for about 2 or 3 years. Got to drinking really bad. My wife and I separated several years ago, which plays a part to that. I was having relationship issues with my kids. I remember my mom telling me, because I was, growing up in school, I was always in Highland, I was always a jokester. I mean, you've known me since we were kids. I guarantee that you've seen the change just from knowing me. But I can remember my mom about 6-7 years into the job.
For sure.
Mom telling me one time, she's like, "You're not the same son that I had before you took this job," and I just blew it off. Yeah, whatever. The changes it made in me, it made me. I was always very trusting in everybody. I saw the good in everybody. I don't now. I'm trying to get better at that. It made me look at everybody differently. I would look for the bad in them before I try to see the good. And also, emotionally, I built a wall inside, and I got to where I just had no emotions. I had the emotions, but they weren't the soft emotions. They were all the harder emotions. Angry. Things don't get to you emotionally like they should. When I knew I was struggling and started seeing a therapist on my own, I didn't tell anybody at all about it. I didn't tell my wife, didn't tell my kids, nobody. And I I didn't tell anybody for about the first 3 or 4 months, and I thought I was doing really good. I was like, okay, this has helped me. I'm doing good. I saw him for about 7, 8 months. We both agreed that I progressed well. I felt like I was feeling good. I wasn't drinking as much. I mean, a lot of things were going right for me. So I stopped going to therapy. Then had an officer, one of my officers. I had been his sergeant on the shift he worked, at least. I wasn't his direct the whole time, but his whole career, and I think he was with us 6, 7 years. He was a captain, mate. I can't remember. He was pretty high ranking in the Army. He saw several tours of duty. He was in the shit. He was out patrolling the streets. You know the term, I guess they called him a door kicker. The way they described it is his group was going out looking for the targets, and they would they were booting doors looking for their target. When they came in, if they got their target, it was pop, pop, done, and then just roll on. I don't know all the Army stuff, but he was in some serious shit. And then he comes back and he works for us. Excellent officer, one of the best officers I ever knew. I could see he was struggling with some shit at home, and he was drinking. It was like a joke thing. They're always talking about him drinking. I pulled him in one day and talked to him. I'm like, look, dude, if you got issues, we've got these resources and stuff. And I said, and besides that, you know what? As your boss, I'm supposed to tell you the resources. I said, fuck all that. Here, I'm your friend. If you need anything, you let me know on a personal basis. And he's like, no, I'm good, boss. I'm good. He ends up committing suicide. Him and his wife get in an argument one night. He shoots himself in the head right in front of his wife. I had not been in therapy for about 2 months when that happened. I'm sitting in front of the room in front of all my peers. I mean, my officers. I'm the sergeant. They're all patrol officers. And of course, they're distraught. And I remember having zero emotion. I felt nothing. I literally felt nothing. I knew it was sad. I knew I should be crying. I knew I should be feeling something. And I felt absolutely nothing. And that next week, I went back to my therapist, and I'm like, dude, Kyle's suicide. And he said, I was waiting for you to come in. I knew you'd be back. And I told him, I said, I don't feel anything. Went to the funeral. And cop funerals, I've been to a couple. When the bagpipes hit, usually I'll just lose it. I felt nothing. I didn't cry one time. And I knew then that something was wrong. I knew that wasn't right. And I got back in therapy, and then he's like, you need to report this to work. It's time that you tell work, because you can't keep going to work and then going on scenes. Well, shortly after that, I was doing the therapy. He was trying to get me to report it to work. I wouldn't. And then I went on a death scene with, I had a trainee, and as part of their training phase, I, as a sergeant, had to ride with the trainees for 3 days and do their end of phase deal. And we had to go into a dead body, and I was at the dead body, and I was having panic attacks and trying to control my panic attacks while trying to keep an eye on this trainee and make sure he's doing his job right. Luckily, a detective sergeant who I worked with on the streets for years and worked in detectives with showed up on the scene too, and I told him, I was like, dude, I'm having some issues. And he's like, it's okay, I got it. I'll go in and keep an eye on him. And I went and told my therapist. He's like, it's time to report it, because you're becoming a danger to yourself and your coworkers, when you're having panic attacks on scene. So I reported it. I reported it to work comp. Went to a different therapist for that. The work comp one, she pulled me from the street. And I was in therapy with her that was in November of 24. I was on light duty until March 25. I was under the impression that she would end up telling me, hey, you can't go back to work. You need to retire. And finally, one day we talked about it. She's like, I can't make that decision for you. You have to choose that. You have to make that decision. She said, but I will tell you this. I am not releasing you anytime soon to go back to work. So I finally got all my shit together and applied for a medical retirement through our pension fund and was able to get it. And I retired at that point. And it was a hard
Don't be afraid to ask
decision.
for help, people.
Yes.
Do not be afraid to ask for help.
Since,
don't be that guy.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that I would, of course, I'd seen other guys in our department medically retire. and I saw how the stigma was around them and how it was bullshit and shitty, and people just didn't want to help them. But since I retired, there have been two others come forward with issues. They have both medically retired. There's one that's in the process of getting assistance now, and I've had multiple others reach out and be like, listen, I don't really want to go the work comp route and stuff, but I'm struggling. What can I do? I refer them to a couple different therapists I know, and they're getting therapy themselves. But the big thing is, if I'd have just paid attention to it when I was young, that's the one thing I want to say to all these 3 and 5 year officers. It's going to happen to you. 100%. You're going to struggle because you're going to see shit you shouldn't see in situations you shouldn't be in. It's just part of the job. This is for fire, EMTs, police. You're going to see shit in a manner you've never seen it before and that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing a baby's skull, a brand new newborn baby, his scalp being cut open and his whole skull and brains and everything just pour into the floor. You're not supposed to see that.
Right.
That's not normal. And your brain is not going to handle that well. And it's going to hide it. And then it's going to bring it out at different times. So do not be afraid to get help. Thank God Missouri now has mandatory check-ins where they're requiring every officer to go in for a mental health evaluation. They have a 1-hour session with the therapist. The therapist that got the contract to do it, ironically, is the one I went to on my own, which he's phenomenal. And it's really good that you can go in and check in and just be like, hey, okay, yeah, I'm struggling with this and that. The biggest thing is don't lie. Be honest. I lied for years and years and years. And straight up, if it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't be here today. I 100%. I mean, I have left my house with the gun, had the plan, everything was going to do it, and I could not get my kids out of my head and knew that they wouldn't understand. And that's what made me come home every time. But for someone who doesn't have that, if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here today. I know that.
For sure.
And I'm glad I am, man.
Find an outlet.
Yeah. And find someone you can talk to because, peers, ironically, they're going through the same shit you are. A lot of times it just takes one of you to say it and everybody will open up. That's like me. I did it. The two guys that just recently retired from our department, I never would have dreamed, either one of them. And they both come to me and just like, dude, I'm struggling. And I'm nobody. I'm nothing special, but they said, they're like, the fact that you were able to come out and admit it made me realize, if he can admit it, I can too. And so you may be the saving grace to somebody. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Check on your buddies.
Yeah.
Check on
definitely.
your buddies.
And what's crazy is you've seen it. I mean, you've done it through military, through your fire career, everything. You see the changes in the people.
Oh,
you
for
know
sure.
when your friends are struggling,
For sure.
they are. But we won't ever bring it up to them and say it because you don't want them to know that you can see it.
Right.
You don't want them to know that it's showing. So we don't say anything. Well,
but if that friend comes up to you and says, "Hey, dude, let's go get some coffee. Hey, let's go have a drink. Let's go play some pool. Go with them. Do it because they're seeing that change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to point it out to your buddy and say, "Hey, man, I'm seeing this, and let's talk because I care about you." I guarantee that will not be as uncomfortable as going to their funeral and watching their kids cry, and watching their wife cry, and watching their parents. And then you having to sit there and think, man, I could have said something and I didn't. Could I have done something? So, yeah, check on your buddies, like you say. Check on them.
Yeah. So what do you wish? What do you wish the public understood better about what we do then?
Man, I have to stay away from Facebook and tell you've seen me. I
Oh
get
yeah,
on
it's
there,
trash.
and it's even worse now that I'm retired and I can say whatever I want with no ramifications. But yeah, I get so pissed off that the public just has these perceptions that all we're doing is out there to, just brutalize people, to shoot people, to hurt people. That the percentage of officers that actually use deadly force is so minute that's not even funny. I used to get told all the time, and I'm not trying to be racist. I'm just saying I've gotten in conversations with several black people that are like, well, you cops just want to shoot all black people. I was like, I was a cop for 24 years, and I dealt with countless black people. Never shot any of them. Never shot a white, never shot anyone. I'm like, so how could that be possible? If that's what we do, how did I work in a department of 125 officers for 24 years, and out of all of our police shootings, I'm trying to think, maybe one, maybe two were black. The rest were all, I mean, it's just they were Caucasian or Hispanic or something. It's just the stereotypes that they give to cops, that we don't care, that we're heartless. Um, you see the not the you see the stories that are put out where people don't realize that that officer that may pull up on your traffic stop and he may have a shitty attitude, what you perceive as a shitty attitude, he may have just pulled a freaking kid out of a car crash 2 hours ago, and now he sees you doing the same stupid shit that caused that crash. So it's going to weigh on them.
Right. Or they're running. They pulled you over because you didn't have your seatbelt on, and you're going to be an ass to them. But like you said, just before that, they ran a car wreck where a teenager got tossed through the windshield.
Yeah.
And so, they're going to be a dick to you about not wearing your seatbelt because they don't want to run that call again.
And the other thing that people don't realize about police, and I've talked about this before with several friends, and I have several in the fire profession and EMTs, and you're going to understand this. You were a fireman for several years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you went on a bad call, a fatality crash, a call where somebody got hurt, you had to do CPR, you went on a fire, there were dead people in it, and whatever, something bad, a bad call like that. When you got done, you got to go back to the firehouse. A lot of times you would hopefully, a lot of guys, you're able to jump in and maybe get a shower, kind of clean up, get all that smell off of you, kind of wash that shit away, and then you got to sit down maybe around the table and talk about the call, right?
Right.
EMS, they get a lot of that too. Them and their partner are able to have some downtime and go talk about it. The problem with police is, and I'm not saying everywhere, but this is in St. Joe, and I guarantee it's Kansas City. I guarantee big cities. We would go to that call where there's that fatality crash, and you're dealing with that. And then we call in the reconstructionist officers, and they come and they take over the scene. And the minute you clear that scene, before you even get a chance to do anything, you're toned up and you're going to the next call. This may be a fight at the bar. So, okay, you go handle that. Well, you're still over here in the back of your mind processing the fact you just saw dead people in a car.
Right.
Well, now you're at this bar fight where everybody's motherfucking you and motherfucking this. You're a fucking pig and this and that. You're just trying your best to disperse it and get everybody to leave. Well, then you go to the domestic where, you've been to this same house like 7 times in the last 3 months. Same woman getting the shit beat out of her by the same guy, and you're just at your wit's end, and then you're a dick to her. Well, that doesn't do her any good, and then you get a complaint. The problem is cops just never have, through that whole shift, they don't get that decompression time.
Right.
They just gotta file it back, go to the next one, file it back, go to the next one. Well, then you get off a shift of midnights, and you got all this paperwork, and now you're 10 to 12 hours into this 8-hour shift. You go home. Well, at this point, maybe your kids are just waking up and they want to see dad, their mom. So now you're trying to do that shit. Well, then you finally get to try to go to bed. Well, you can't sleep because you're all jacked up over the shit that you dealt with the night before. You get shitty sleep, and then you wake up that evening. You try to wake up early to be with the family, and then you go back to work and you do it all over the next day. It's just, people need to realize that we're human too.
Be
And they
nice to us.
also, yeah, well, at least have some compassion. And then they also don't understand that the police aren't the ones that choose charges. We do all this at work and we send it to a prosecutor that says, yeah, I don't want to fuck with that. And then we get blamed. The prosecutors never get held accountable. I mean, Paul Harvey's and God Made a Policeman. That's pretty good. You listen to that, it's a very, very good story. He does it on, farmers and everything, but the one, God Made a Policeman, that one always hit home with me, and it was pretty impressive.
I like it.
So I just wish people would understand we're human, and we're going to make mistakes too. We can't be perfect. I mean, my God, you can't be perfect in everything. And I'll agree 100% with society that there are bad cops. And I trust me, nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Right.
There's
Absolutely.
no way that anybody hates them because they are doing nothing but making us look like shit. The ones that are out there trying to do good. So as much as society thinks they hate them, I guarantee a good cop hates a bad cop even more.
Right. Well, Bubba, that's all I've got for you, dude.
All right. Well,
I
you can
really
write down some
appreciate
notes.
you sitting down with me and
Hey, no problem.
telling
I've
some
enjoyed it,
stories.
man. Sometime we'll get into you get it for a further future episode or something. The 20, I think it's 24-year-old homicide that was a cold case that got broke
Yes.
open,
Yes,
and we
absolutely.
went and dug that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's our next episode. Let's do it.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be
No problem.
great. So, all right, Cuz. Well, I love you, buddy, and I
Love
think you're
you.
doing a good thing here, man. I really do. If it saves one person from going down a rabbit hole that they don't need to go down, and they can get help, or they recognize somebody needs help and they help them. I mean, no matter what, if it saves one person, this is worth every bit of it.
Check on your buddies, please. Check on
Yes,
your buddies.
absolutely, 100%.
That's another night in the books. Appreciate you staying up with us here at O Dark 30, where the stories don't stop when the sun goes down. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your crew. Hit follow and keep those stories coming. Got a wild call, a deployment memory, or just something worth telling? Drop me a message. You might end up on the next one. Stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel, and remember, nothing good happens after midnight. Same time, same chaos. Catch you next time.